So you have the LMPD who's murdering lots of innocent people. The LMPD who's throwing innocent people behind bars. They just keep on messing up. They just keep on making this mistake. You had Carrie Porter who was in prison for 14 years. You got Susan King who's in jail right now. So an innocent person right now is in jail. Baron Morgan tried to come out and say something about it, but Steve Conrad said, "Hey, don't tell bad stuff about our department. We don't want anybody to know the bad that we do. We need to keep it all on the inside, keep it all hidden, right? Because that's the type of fucking criminal organizations do. I mean, it's like the mafia, right? Loose lips sink ships. They're criminal. They do what the fuck as they please as long as they're all on board about lying. So they wouldn't like a Serpico. They wouldn't like a truth person. And that's why I feel as though there's few good apples, because the corruption's institutionalized and it's systematic. So there is other DNA that was on the scene. There is another statement that implicates a different person. He's always maintained his innocence, and he points out that it's a different person. But David Stingle won't identify the witness. David Stingle and Lowe both praised Louisville Metro Police Sergeant Denny Butler, who heads the cold case unit, reinvestigated Porter's conviction. Lowe cited his good old-fashioned detective work, and Stingle said Butler, who is retiring this month, had worked hard to clear Porter, as police usually do to convict. But Lowe and Stingle offered starkly contrasting explanation for what led to Porter's wrongful conviction. Lowe blamed it on the investigative tunnel vision on the part of the police and the prosecution. So the investigative tunnel vision, they only want to fucking convict one motherfucker. They didn't look at all the possible other avenues. They just want to say, you know, this motherfucker is wrong and we're just going to go after him, and who gives a shit about the truth. Stengel said Porter destroyed his own credibility, right? So the Commonwealth's attorney said, oh, Porter destroyed his own fucking credibility because they said that he made up a story that he was with his girlfriend at the time of the crime, and she was at a drug rehab clinic. And maybe the motherfucker just didn't want to say his girlfriend was at a drug rehab clinic. You judged on dumb shit. You probably would have convicted him of just for that. You know what I mean? Like, you motherfuckers lie all the time. How many times do you all lie? And does that mean once you all lie, you guys are just guilty of murder? You all should be thrown in prison? Well, most likely you guys are lying because you killed somebody. You all hurt somebody. You're throwing them into prison, you know, unnecessarily. So, you know, what's good for the goose, good for the gander. Justice means nobody's above the law. So just because you have a badge, you're not allowed to break the law. Everybody has to follow the law. Nobody's allowed to murder, rape, kill. Even if you got a badge, you ain't allowed to just do that. You know, if you do it, then they'll make up reasons, and then the global public might believe the bullshit. But that's not right. You know, you can't murder and lie about it and get away with your crimes. That's the very definition of this. That's as criminal as a motherfucker can get. So Lowe blamed on the investigative tunnel vision on the part of the police and prosecution. McKay Chauvin, prosecutor Porter, and is now a circuit judge, angrily disputed Lowe's assertion, right? McKay Chauvin. Oh, damn it, he prosecuted Porter, now a circuit judge. So McKay Chauvin, he didn't give a fuck. Or she didn't give a shit. She did not give a shit if he was guilty or not. She did not care, and they hate it because they don't care about truth or justice. They just want to cover their own ass up. How dare you speak out against a thing that I had done? And so McKay Chauvin is like angrily disputed. So it says that she is wrong. We've always opened the possibility that Juan Sanders may have done this. Chauvin added that Sanders, or wait, I guess that's a he. McKay Chauvin's a he, and Lowe's the woman. So Chauvin added that Sanders would have been prosecuted if he had the kind of evidence against him that we had against Carrie Porter. Still, Chauvin said he had no problem with Stengel's decision to free Porter. It's Stengel's call, and I got great confidence in his judgment. Okay, yeah, you got great confidence in Stengel's call, but he's been covering up fucking crimes and innocent people dying for the whole time. Every innocent person that was shot, he didn't give a fuck about. So I'm glad Stingle is not around. I hope he's not around, because he's a bad guy. He's like, I wouldn't doubt if you'd find out later on that he's part of the, you know, a grand wizard of the Ku Klux Klan. When Desmond Rudolph got shot, you had the police marching on the street, and you had the Ku Klux Klan. They was on the same side. The Klan and the police should not be on the same side. The police should be making sure the Klan isn't fucking with people. But since they do have the same behavior and same ends, right? They are natural bedfellows. So Tom Wine, who tried Porter, is retiring from the Court of Appeals to run for Commonwealth's attorney, applauded Stingle's decision to keep an open mind and work with the Innocence Project. So yeah, he's pretending to work with the Innocence Project, but you see how they fucking flipped out when it comes to Susan King in the Innocence Project. So I assume they waived all the evidence and made the right decision, Wine said. He said he is sorry if Porter is innocent for all the time he's spent in there, but it was a clean trial, and he had to accept the jury's decision. No, like you didn't have to. A lot of times the judge overrules it, and then you are in charge of sentencing, right? So how long did you throw him in fucking prison for? Asked at the news conference what he would say to Porter, Stingle said he would tell him, "I know it took a long time, but we tried to do the right thing." The motherfucker don't even say sorry. He don't even fucking apologize. We tried. We tried to do the right thing. Fuck you, man. You threw a fucking innocent person in jail, Stingle. The Stingle stinkles, okay? So I asked at the news conference what he would say to Porter. Stingle said he would tell them, "I know it took a long time, but we tried to do the right thing." Stingle said he hopes Porter had a prior convictions will turn over a new leaf. So what a fucking asshole. He don't even apologize for this shit, and then he says you need to still be a different man. Fuck you. You have no right. You got no credibility to say what anybody should and should not be doing. You should be immediately fired, and you should be put in prison for putting an innocent man in jail. That's a crime. You want to hold somebody against their will? That's a crime. And when he's being held against their will, is he getting beat up and raped? I mean, that's just like the case up in Ohio where that guy had the two girls, kidnapped him and kept him in prison in his basement. What's the difference? You held innocent man in captivity so he can get fucked with by all these other people. What's the fucking difference? That's David Stingle. That's the Commonwealth's attorney out of Louisville. That's the Jefferson County Commonwealth's attorney. So he said he really didn't give a shit, He didn't really give a shit if he was fucking innocent or not. Stingle declined to say if Porter deserves compensation for the time he spent behind bars. Well, 14 fucking years, do you deserve compensation? Well, I don't know. Man, fuck you. Of course he does. You stole 14 years of his life. If a cop was being held against their will for 14 years, would they deserve, some sort of compensation? Yes. And so Stengel declined. Let's see. However, after William Gregory was freed in 2000, when newly available DNA testing showed he had been unjustly convicted 7 years earlier for rape and attempted rape, he sued the city of Louisville and the state and won a settlement totaling $4.6 million. So, okay, I mean, this is $4.6 million. William Gregory was finally freed in 2000. So this isn't, man, they're just coming up with a whole fucking list of people who's been put behind jail. You had Susan King, and then you have William Gregory. And then you got Carrie Porter. So Carrie Porter, I mean, they're just putting these people in prison for a long ass time. They put Carrie Porter in jail for 14 years. William Gregory, he winds up winning $4.6 million for being wrongly convicted. So of course he should be compensated. There's like, well, he still needs to lead his life. Fucking Stingle has no fucking. He's a psychopath. He's got no empathy. He has no compassion for other human beings. He doesn't give a shit about anybody else. $4.6 million because of that asshole throwing innocent people into prison. That's costing the city money, and it also taints the organization. You guys are protecting and serving, or you guys are just fucking beating up people, whoever you want to. Just like some gang member, just like some fucking, Minutemen, racist, right-wing fucking militia. Lowe says she doesn't know if Porter will hire private counsel to seek compensation, but she said, being in prison for 14 years for a crime I didn't do, I know I would. In an interview, Jerome Camp, the victim's identical twin brother, said the family long believed that Sanders, not Porter, was the killer, and it was wonderful to hear that Porter had been exonerated. I feel really good for Carrie, said Camp, who plans to meet with him on Tuesday. I think he's getting the justice he deserves. Camp says the only thing better would be if they arrested the real people who did it. Sanders, who is serving 17 years in prison for manslaughter and another shooting death, as well as other crimes, has not responded to requests for comment. Janice Porter, Carrie Porter's mother, also urged people not to forget about the Camp family, and Lowe said their assistance was instrumental in securing her client's freedom. The prosecution claimed at trial that Porter killed Camp out of jealousy. Camp was married to Porter's former girlfriend, Cecilia Camp, who they had a son with at the time. Porter continues to Cecilia Camp and Sanders are having an affair and conspired to kill Tyrone Camp to collect insurance policy she had purchased on him. The Courier-Journal review of Porter's trial found his wrongful conviction may have begun with a questionable eyewitness identification. The witness who saw the suspect run from the scene south of downtown Louisville told police on the day of the murder he probably would not be able to identify the shooter. So the witness couldn't identify the shooter. So that's, of course, he didn't want to say who the witness was, or because the witness really didn't know, they didn't have good evidence. They could just say, well, we got a witness, and that's all they could say to the court, right? Well, who's this witness and what he's saying? Well, the witness is saying, they won't say who the witness is, but they will say what he's saying, and he is saying that he doesn't give it, that he couldn't tell who the shooter was. He couldn't identify them. So that's the case. That was what their case was. That's how they convicted him. So, it's just cover up. It's just messaging. It's PR work. It has nothing to do with truth or justice. They don't give a shit about truth or justice. So he did so about a month later, but only after he was shown a single photograph of Porter by Jerome Camp. So they said, here's a picture. Is this the guy? Is this the guy? And a lot of times, I remember one time they went into the office and they was just wanting some witness just to point out somebody, and so they had her look through a bunch of guys, and then she kind of pointed on somebody, but it just seemed like the police just wanted her to finger somebody. Here's a list of suspects that we got something on. Can you just point to one of them and say that's who it was, and then maybe we can, arrest them for some bullshit fucking reason. So witness who saw a suspect run. So that's crazy. If you got a legitimate complaint, they don't give a shit. But if they're trying to hurt somebody and you got a complaint on them, they'll accept any words that you have to say. So a witness who saw a suspect running from the scene south of downtown Louisville told police on the day of the murder they probably would not have been able to. Okay, right. Most of the Innocence Project agreed to review Porter's case in 2006 because they had the hallmarks of a wrongful conviction, including the bad ideas, as well as prosecution testimony from a jailhouse snitch and another offender who was given a deal in exchange for his testimony. Courier-Journal reported, so like they're making all these bargains and deals with everybody else just to convict this motherfucker, right? So how is that, good? And a jailhouse snitch, right? So the Courier-Journal reported in August that a cooperating government witness, Francois, Francois Cunningham, Mr. Cunningham, told the police and prosecutors last year that Sanders asked him to kill Tyrone Camp, and that Sanders later admitting doing the job himself. So we got the people who did it and shit, and eventually, he was exonerated. The newspaper reported that authorities never turned over that information to Lowe, so they didn't tell him about it, right? So again, instead of actually getting the proper information to the right people, they hide the shit. They don't tell what's going on. There's poor communication. There should be like a central database with any phone call that comes in. It should be entered into the system, and it should be automatically filed and cross-referenced. So David Stingle, fucking piece of shit Commonwealth attorney who's no good whatsoever, he said at the time they're required to do so, and they didn't want to jeopardize another murder investigation. So we had to convict the wrong person because we didn't want to fuck up another murder investigation, which we're going to fuck up too. Well, if you don't point out your mistakes, then you're just a bad fucking person. That's how you know if you're a good organization, is if you correct your wrongs and you correct your mistakes. Go back to kindergarten. You tell the person that hit the other kid out of wrath and, wrongness that it was wrong, and you take accountability for your actions. But the police they're not accountable to anybody. Nobody polices the LMPD. The LMPD is the top dog around here. So Lowe said Monday that a combination of factors ultimately contributed to Porter's exoneration, including media coverage of his plight. Sometimes he said justice requires public outrage. So that's the story of Kerry Porter. William Gregory won $4.6 million. So compare to that to the wrongful death suits. If you're put in jail innocent, you'll get $4.6 million for being put in jail and your life being stolen from you. But if your entire life is stolen from you, if you're murdered and gunned down like a dog on the street, and you're Michael Newby's mother, you get $250,000. $250,000, which will last you maybe 5 years. You stole her son away from her. You took her son away from her. And $4.6 million is what this man gets for being innocent. And then you have $1.4 million that the man in Grant County had received for getting raped. But when young black men get murdered in Louisville, you had $600,000, $350,000, $250,000 for Michael Newby's case. That's what the mother had received, and that was it. Like that's the price of a life. That's not the price. At least $1 million is the price of a life. And the hits keep on coming. The LMPD, they don't care about truth and justice. So just recently, LMPD officer Joe Burden had arrested a woman and told her to show her vagina to him. Like, I'll let you go if you just let me see your vagina. So you got these fucking creepy molester oppressors that's out there. So they are oppressed, and they say, well, if you want to get away from your oppression, then let me molest you. So it's either one or the other. Let me beat you up, or let me, get off to you. And, that's sort of stop and frisk. That's sexual assault. You can just stop anybody and just feel them up at any point, at any time. Like, that's fucked up. The Onion made a joke about stop and kiss program. I mean, is that acceptable? Just stop and kiss anytime? You can feel anybody up you want to, kiss anybody you want to. So the 26 officers were on the list, including 2 with open investigations on them, 3 who left the department but still have to testify in pending cases. So these are people that have been brought up for official misconduct for shit that they have done in the past. And So the list includes Officer Joe Burton, who told the person to show their vagina to him. He was charged with 2 counts of official misconduct for allegedly detaining a woman while on duty and telling her to pull down her pants and expose herself during a routine call. That case is pending, right? Is he going to get indicted? Is he going to get in trouble? Probably not. They cover up their friends' crimes, and they don't care about truth and justice. So it's about them getting away with anything that they can get away with, and then the people who are dumb enough or weak enough to fall for their bullshit, they're the ones that get fucked over. They ain't right.